Imagine a government that knows every thought you have ever had. Not just your actions. Not just your words. Your thoughts. The ones you never said out loud. The ones you had at 3 in the morning when you couldn't sleep. The ones you were ashamed of before you even finished thinking them. Now imagine that same government is recording all of it. Building a file on you from the moment you are born until the moment you die. Every desire. Every doubt. Every private moment of anger or lust or jealousy. All of it documented. All of it to be used against you at a trial you cannot avoid, before a judge you cannot appeal, with a sentence that lasts forever. If a human government did this, we would call it the most totalitarian regime in the history of civilization. We would call it a nightmare. We would call it the end of human dignity and freedom. But when God does it, we call it love. Let's be precise about what the major religions actually claim. Christianity teaches that God is omniscient, all-knowing. He knows your thoughts before you think them. Psalm 139 says, "You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." Islam teaches the same. The Quran states repeatedly that God knows what is in your hearts. Chapter 57 verse 4, He is with you wherever you are. And God sees what you do. Not just what you do, what you are. Your interior life is fully visible to Him at all times. There is no privacy. There is no space that is yours alone. There is no thought that belongs only to you. Now, let's apply the same standard we would apply to any other system that makes this claim. In 2013, Edward Snowden revealed that the National Security Agency of the United States was collecting the phone records, emails, and internet activity of hundreds of millions of people around the world. People who had never been accused of any crime. People who had done nothing wrong. Surveilled simply because the technology existed to surveil them. The reaction was global outrage. Civil liberties organizations filed lawsuits. Governments protested. Ordinary people felt violated. The word that came up again and again was dignity. Mass surveillance, people said, is a violation of human dignity. It treats every person as a suspect. It removes the basic human right to an interior life that belongs to you alone. The NSA could only see your emails and phone calls. God sees your thoughts. If the NSA's surveillance was a violation of human dignity, what is God's? But it goes further than surveillance. Because surveillance alone, as disturbing as it is only the beginning of the system. The system also includes punishment. And not ordinary punishment. Not a fine. Not imprisonment. Not even execution. Eternal punishment. Christianity teaches that those who die without accepting Jesus Christ face eternal separation from God, and in many traditions, eternal conscious torment in hell. Forever, for thoughts and actions committed during a human lifetime that lasts, on average, 70 years. Islam teaches that those who reject God and die as unbelievers face the fire permanently, without end. Let's do the mathematics of this moral equation. A human life is approximately 70 years. That is roughly 613,000 hours. In those 613,000 hours, a person makes decisions, some good, some bad, under conditions they did not choose. They were born into a particular family, a particular culture, a particular set of circumstances. They were shaped by experiences they did not control. They made mistakes, as every human being makes mistakes, because imperfection is the defining characteristic of being human. For 70 years of imperfect human existence, the punishment is eternity. Eternity is not a long time. Eternity is not a very, very long time. Eternity has no end. After a billion years of suffering, you are no closer to the end than you were on the first day. After a trillion years, the same. The punishment never stops because it cannot stop. That is the definition of eternal. No human court in any civilization in history has ever sentenced anyone to infinite punishment for finite crimes. Because every system of human justice, however flawed, recognizes a basic principle of proportionality. The punishment must fit the crime. God's system does not recognize this principle. Now here is where believers will make their first objection. God doesn't want to punish you, they will say. God loves you. Hell is not something God imposes, it is something you choose by rejecting Him. The door to hell is locked from the inside. This is a very elegant argument. Let's examine it. You are told from birth that God exists, that He demands certain things from you, and that failure to comply results in eternal suffering. You are told this by your parents, your community, your culture, your religious authorities, the same people who feed you, protect you, and define your entire understanding of reality during the years when your brain is most vulnerable to permanent shaping. Then, as an adult, you are presented with a choice. Believe and obey, or face eternal consequences. A choice made under the threat of infinite punishment is not a free choice. It is coercion. The most extreme coercion imaginable. No human legal system would accept a confession or a contract signed under those conditions. We have a word for agreements made under the threat of severe harm. We call them invalid. There is another layer to this that almost nobody discusses. The surveillance is not just external. Believers are taught to internalize it. You are not just watched by God. You are taught to watch yourself the way God watches you. To monitor your own thoughts. To feel shame and guilt not just for actions but for desires, for doubts, for questions that arise naturally in any thinking mind. Psychologists have a term for this internalized surveillance. They call it scrupulosity, a form of religious obsessive-compulsive disorder in which a person becomes consumed by the monitoring of their own interior life for signs of sin. But you don't have to reach clinical levels for the damage to be real. The ordinary believer who feels guilt for a sexual thought, who confesses a moment of doubt, who lies awake worrying whether a fleeting moment of anger was a sin, that person is living inside a surveillance system they have built inside their own mind. The most effective surveillance state is the one you police yourself. Let's be clear about what we are not saying. We are not saying that moral accountability is wrong. The idea that actions have consequences, that how we treat each other matters, that there is value in reflection and conscience, these are not religious ideas. They are human ideas, present in every culture long before and entirely independent of organized religion. What we are saying is something more specific. The version of moral accountability offered by the major monotheistic religions is not accountability. It is a system of total surveillance, internally enforced, with infinite punishment as the ultimate deterrent, applied to beings whose capacity for free choice is significantly constrained by the circumstances of their birth and upbringing. If a human government built this system, we would recognize it immediately for what it is. We would call it totalitarianism. We would resist it. We would write about it in history books as one of the darkest chapters in human political thought. The next time someone tells you that God is watching over you, sit with that sentence for a moment. Not the comfort of it, the structure of it. Watching over you. Every thought, every doubt, every private moment, from birth to death, with infinite consequences waiting at the end. Ask yourself whether a being that operates this way deserves the word love, or whether there is another word that fits better. A word that human beings, in their long and painful political history, have learned to recognize and learn to resist. Subscribe. Because the most important freedom is the one inside your own mind.